Hi Yarny friends, it's Dawn from Ninja Bunny Crochet. I have this really super cute wall hanging for us to do. You can see one hanging up right over there. And I have one right here that it's really super cute. It's made with granny squares and we make them in a two. One half is one color, the other half is the other color. They're made with a solid granny square and we put them together in the ribbon star pattern, and it looks like a quilt block. It's super cute. It looks a lot more difficult than it really is. It's really actually pretty easy to make, and I'm going to show you exactly how to make these half and half squares, and then you just make full all one color square. We sew them together and we have this really cute wall hanging. So I'm going to turn the camera around. We're going to go over to the craft table. I'm going to show you all the supplies you need and how to make this super cute wall hanging. The yarn that I used for the ribbon star wall hanging is Joann's Big Twist Value. This is a 100% acrylic yarn. It is 380 yards, 6 ounces, 347 meters, 170 grams. You will need 3 colors to do this pattern. The colors that I used is ivory, soft purple, and light green. Now, obviously you will not use a full skein of any of these colors to make this pattern. What you will need, though, if you're looking for exact amounts, is about 190 to 200 yards of the purple and the green of each color, and about 250 yards of the ivory color. If you're going to be using some scraps or whatever out of leftover yarn out of your stash, you just want to make sure that your weights are the same. So let's put these aside and we'll get out the hooks. So the hook that I used is an 5.5 millimeter hook. Today I'll be using my Clover Amour hook. You'll need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and you're going to want at least one stitch marker. You don't need to use these locking stitch markers. You can use just a piece of yarn that's a different color than the colors you are working with. And you'll need a wooden dowel. This is an 18-inch wooden dowel. If you get a larger one, you can always cut it down to the correct size. So now once you have all of your supplies, let's get started. Before we jump into today's tutorial, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that little icon right down there in the corner. That'll automatically subscribe you to my channel. And while you're down there, go ahead and ring that bell. That'll notify you whenever I upload a new video. And if you like content like this, please give it a thumbs up, because that lets YouTube know that you like my videos. It also lets me know what type of videos you'd like to see on my channel. And all of the gauge information and size information will be down in the description box down below. So we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook, any old way that you make your slip knot. And we're going to start with a chain of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to be starting with my purple color today. We're also going to do a slip knot into that first chain that we made to form a little ring. Now if you're more comfortable, you can use a magic ring to start off with, but for me, I'm going to be using this method. So chain up 3, 1, 2, 3. That counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to put 2 double crochets into the ring. So that's 1, And we want to make sure that we mark the top of that turning chain as our first stitch. It'll be much easier to find on the way back. And let's put our second double crochet in there. Chain 2. And we're going to put 3 double crochets. And that in the last double crochet we're going to change colors. So 1, 2, get our tail out of the way there. And now in this double crochet we're going to change colors. So we're going to go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through the first 2 loops, and we're going to bring that to the back and we're going to drop it. We're going to grab our next color, which is going to be our ivory color. We're going to place that over our hook and pull through. Now you can tie these 2 tails together, but it's not necessary. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to continue working 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, and we're going to put 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Now for this last corner, we are not going to chain 2. We're going to chain 1, and then in the top of the turning chain we're going to do a half double crochet. So we're going to be joining with a half double crochet. I'm going to slip our hook into that chain. I like to try to get both loops of the turning chain, just like that. And we're going to pull through and do a half double crochet. So this is our first round. Now you can take the tail, give it a little tug, and it'll tighten up that center. But we'll also tighten that up when we weave in our ends. So for round 2, we're just going to turn the work, and this is the wrong side of our work, and that's the side that our tails are always going to be on. We're going to chain up 3. That counts as our first double crochet. You're going to want to take your stitch marker and mark the top of the turning chain. And we're going to place 1 double crochet into the space that was created by the half double crochet. So yarn over and create 1 double crochet into that space. Then we're going to double crochet into the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. And we're into a corner where we're going to put 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Chain 2. 2 double crochets. All into that corner. And we're going to double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. One, 2, and 3. Now we're at the corner where we're going to change colors. So we're going to do 2 double crochets, and that second double crochet we're going to change colors. So 1 And then on the second one, we pull through the first 2 loops. We're going to take our white, let's see, we pull out a little bit of yarn here. So we're going to take our ivory, bring that yarn over to the right, take our tail and bring that over to the right as well. And then we're going to bring up our purple around, come around the back of the hook and bring it over your hook and pull it through. And you can go ahead and chain 2, and then we're going to put 2 double crochets back into that same space. So go over the purple carry up and chain, create your double crochet. Now the first stitch is going to be a little bit hidden because you can see these 2 stitches, but your first stitch is kind of hidden behind right there. So you're going to put your hook right into that stitch and put your first double crochet and double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So that is probably the trickiest part, is that first stitch right there. Now we're at the corner where we're going to put 2 double crochet. Let me move my yarn out of the way. And that yarn is just kind of creeping up there. Chain 2 and 2 double crochet. And then we're going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and this last stitch right here, you have your white or your ivory coming out of it too, but that's where your 3rd stitch is, and you're going to put your hook right in there and double crochet. This half double crochet kind of on the side here that you did your join with, your chain 1 and your half double crochet, that counts as your chain space, and you're going to double crochet 2 times in that space. 1, 2 to create the second half of your corner, chain 1, and we're going to half double crochet into the top of the chain that we marked. So you take your stitch marker out, yarn over, and get the 2 loops if you can. If you can get 1, that's fine too, but you want to try to get 2 loops. Sorry, I just dropped my yarn there. And pull through, pull through. Now let me just pull my yarn out here for a second. And so we have all our little tails, but we have a nice little square with one side one color, one side the other color. So we have one side ivory, one side purple. To do round 3, our final round, we're going to do just like we did the first time, and we're going to just turn the work. But let me get out a little bit more yarn here so we can go ahead and work this square. So we're just going to turn the work, and now we're on the right side of the work. All our tails are on the wrong side. Chain up 3, 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and mark the top of the turning chain. That's our first double crochet, and we're going to go in with 1 double crochet into that space, and in the next 7 stitches we're going to double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we're at the corner where we do 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. And again, we're going to double crochet 1 in each of these stitches, which is 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Just get a little bit more yarn pulled out. And this is where we're going to change our colors again. So we're going to go ahead and put 2 double crochets in there, and we're going to change colors in our last double crochet. So we bring our purple to the right behind the work, and make sure you grab the working ivory, not the tail. Bring it up and over your hook, pull through. You can just drop your purple, chain up 2, 1, 2, and we're going to go ahead and put 2 half double crochets into the same space. 2 double crochets. And then again, this one might be a little bit tough to see, but this is your first stitch right here. And you're going to go into the next 7 stitches and double crochet. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that brings us to the corner. Let me just pull out some more yarn so I can complete the square with you. 2 double crochets in the corner, chain 2, 2 double crochets. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next 7 stitches again to complete our last side. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and again, that last stitch, this time we'll have the purple going out of it. And we're going to get our hook right in there. Complete that last double crochet. Now we're in that corner. We're going to go around that last corner and put 2 double crochet so we can complete the corner. Chain 1, take our stitch marker out, and complete a half double crochet into the top of that turning chain. And since this is our last round, we can just go ahead and fasten off. You don't need to leave a super long tail, just enough so that you can weave it in. And then you're going to want to cut off your purple with a little bit of a tail as well. And there is your square, nice and complete. So you want to go ahead and finger block that. You can block each one of your squares. Up. So you're going to want to make 6 squares in the purple and ivory, and 6 squares in your light green and ivory, and then make 6 squares in just, no, excuse me, 4 squares in your ivory, just the ivory, solid ivory. Make the solid squares exactly how you do the mixed 2-color one, but you're just using the same color. You're going to do the turn, you're going to turn the square, but you're just not going to change colors. Once you have all your squares completed, come on back and we'll sew our squares together. Okay, once you have all your squares done and you have all the ends woven in, you're going to want to lay them out in this configuration. I know it's a little difficult to see because my printer ink was running out, but I have them laid out here on the table. I can't quite fit all of it in the picture, which is why I printed this out for you to see. Once you lay them all out, then you're going to sew all the squares together. I did mine, I'm going to whip stitch them. I will show you how to whip stitch the squares together so that you can get yours all whip stitched together. And then we're going to put a single crochet border around the entire thing, and we'll attach it to the dowel. So let me bring the camera down and I'll show you how to whip stitch your squares together. So before you start to whip stitch your squares together, you have to decide which color you're going to do that. I'm going to use the ivory color because I think that would be the best to hide the stitches. So in order to do that, I'm going to start with these top 2. This is the left top corner of the pattern. You can start with any 2 squares that you'd like. So I'm going to do about 3 times, about 4 times the length that I want to stitch, just to make sure I have enough yarn to stitch those together. Put the right sides together, and I'm going to go ahead and go through and just put a little knot right here to start with. Now you can do a slip knot and pull through, or you can just tie a little knot, just so you have enough tail there to weave that in. And what I do is I like to go through the back loops and just whip stitch, because then it leaves a nice little edge to your seams, nice little decorative edge on the front side or the right side. So just like that. You can use the mattress stitch or any other joining method that you like. You can do crochet them together. You can slip stitch it, single crochet, whatever method you prefer. I like to do the whip stitch because that way it doesn't add a lot of bulk to your seam. The mattress stitch would also not add bulk to your seam. And would also hide your stitches pretty well too. So again, it's really up to you how you choose to join your squares. So I'm just going to make sure I'm right in the corner, and I think I can go one more stitch. And I'm just going to go one more time just so that I can and I'm going to check it and see how it looks. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and just put a little tiny knot in there so my seam doesn't come undone. And I find that it's just easier to weave in the ends while I'm seaming them. I mean, you could leave this, conceivably leave this out so you can work those ends, but I find it's just easier just to go ahead and weave in your ends with each seam, but it's entirely up to you. Make sure it doesn't come through too much on the front side. No. Since it's just a wall hanging, I'm not too concerned with the ends coming out. And I did leave that a little bit short, so I'm going to have to just kind of weave this in and then put that into the yarn needle. You might want to leave your tail a little bit longer than I did. There you go. Don't want to pull it too tight because you don't want to pucker the seams. So now we're going to continue sewing our squares together till we have them all sewn together. Then come on back and we'll work our border. Once you have your wall hanging all sewn together, all your squares are sewn together, we're going to now crochet the border onto the piece. So get your crochet hook and your border color. I'm going to be using ivory. You can use whatever color you choose to use. Put a slip knot on your hook, and we're going to start in any corner that you choose. So let me bring the camera down here a little bit. There we go. So go ahead and attach your yarn with a slip knot or slip stitch to a corner. We're going to chain one and put a single crochet, chain one, single crochet into that corner. Now that first single crochet is that first stitch that you made. We're going to go ahead and mark that stitch. So let me grab my stitch markers here. So we're going to go ahead and put a stitch marker right into that one so it'll be easier to find when we come back around. Now go ahead and put 1 single crochet into each stitch. This first one here is a little bit tricky, but that's all we're going to be doing, is putting 1 single crochet into each stitch. We're just tidying up the edges by putting single crochets. When we get to a seam, which will be coming up soon, I will show you what I did for the seams. So continue with your single crochets. Now here we're coming up to a seam where we have what looks like spaces. So I'm just going to put a single crochet into that space. I'm going to put 2 single crochets into each space. And then move on, putting 1 single crochet into each stitch. When you get to the corner, put a single crochet, chain 1 single crochet into the corner, and then just continue working your single crochets. When you come all the way back around to the beginning, you're going to slip stitch into that marked stitch or that very first stitch. So here we have another seam. We're going to put 2 singles in there. It just seems a little bit easier than trying to work into the seam just by putting 2 singles in there. And then continue on putting 1 single crochet into each stitch. So I will meet back up with you at the end when we get all the way back around to the mark stitch, to our very first stitch. I've made it all the way back around. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch to that first single crochet that we made. And fasten off. Okay, so we're going to weave in our ends, and all we need to do is just attach our block to the dowel. At this point, if you want, you can go ahead and block your entire piece. If it is a little bit off or it's a little bit wonky, you might want to block it. That is entirely up to you. I'm going to go ahead and weave these ends in off camera, and then we'll work on attaching it to our dowel and making a hanger. Once you have all your ends woven in, we're going to attach our dowel. Now what I did is I cut a strand about 4 times the length, a little over 4 times the length of my dowel and my piece. And then set this aside here for a second. And then I'm going to double that, so I'm going to fold it in half. Just got to find my other end here. So we're going to fold it in half. And this is what we're going to use to attach our wall hanging to our dowel. So I'm going to thread both ends into the yarn needle, line up our piece with our dowel, and go into the corner and just pull this through and attach our yarn. I'm going to go through the end. just so that the yarn attaches. And then simply going to bring this camera down first of all so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to wrap it around the dowel and then go into the stitch. Oh, make sure it's around the dowel, just like that. And again, around the dowel, and I'm going to go into every other stitch. So I'm not going to do every stitch, I'm going to go into every other stitch. Again, go skip the next stitch, go into that one, and we're just going to basically sew the dowel on. And this is a little awkward on camera here. This might not be the exact angle I would be doing it if I wasn't on camera. But again, go into the, skip the next stitch, go into this one. And we're going to do that all the way down. And you may have to adjust. You don't want to put them too tight because you want to be able to slide your dowel in and out, because you should have, with an 18-inch dowel, you're going to have about an inch on either side of your piece, because your overall block should be about 16 inches. If your gauge is a little bit different and your block is a little bit bigger, you might have to get a bigger dowel. But just continue sewing your dowel onto your piece. And once you get to the opposite end, you're just going to fasten it off and tie off your yarn. I will meet back up with you when we get to the end. I'm at the end. I've finished my last stitch on the dowel, and I'm just going to flip it over to the wrong side. And I'm going to go ahead and just tie a little knot here. So, here, sorry, so that you can see it. And then I can just weave the end in. So I'm just going to clip that off a little bit so I don't have such a long end to weave in. So go ahead and weave this end in, and then we'll come back and we'll work on the hanger. Okay, once you're finished sewing your dowel on and weaving in your end, you're going to want to take another piece of yarn. It can be the same color, it could be a different color, whatever color you want your hanger to be. And you want to do, again, about 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 times the width of your project again. And again, we're going to double it. So fold it in half. And we're going to use this as our hanger. And that is just really super, super easy. So let me just drop the camera back down. And for this, all we're going to do is just tie it. So just tie it around the end. Now you could make an I-cord if you want and do the same thing using an I-cord, but I just used a little piece of yarn and put the knot towards the back. So the little tassel. Did the same thing on the other side. And I didn't bother to even measure the length of the tassels so that they were the same. I just kind of tied it, just kind of eyeballed it. If you really want to measure it to make sure the little tassels are the same length, you can go ahead and do that too. If you want to be that exact. And then because this is a loop, I just went snip. And now you have a hanger. Now you can make this hanger as long or as short as you'd like. I hope you enjoyed making this ribbon star wall hanging together. And if you're looking for some more quick and easy fun crochet tutorials, just click one of those playlists that pop up at the end of this video, and that'll bring you to some more of my tutorials. Thanks for watching and happy crocheting. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.